Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Playbook for Leaders and Entrepreneurs. Today on the show, I'm honored to be speaking with Fred Joyle, entrepreneur, author, and a true expert in living life with boldness. Fred is the co founder of 1 800 Dentist, a groundbreaking company that transformed dental marketing and connected millions of patients with care. He's also the author of the best selling book, SuperBold, which we will deep dive today in this episode, where he shares powerful tools for building confidence and taking action in all areas of life. Through decades of business leadership, public speaking, and personal growth, Fred has helped countless people step into their potential. And today, he's here to share his insights with us. So, Fred, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Sid, I'm excited to have this conversation. I look forward to talking to your audience and giving them some bold approaches
Bonus.
for their life. Yeah. So
I love it. I love it. So let's kick off then. So please could you give us more insights into your personal life, how you got started with business, so that our listeners can get to know you a little bit more.
yeah. So I was kind of aimless when it was in college and even out of college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had worked in several businesses on a lower level. Um, the list of jobs I had was kind of extensive, from painting houses to selling payroll systems to selling frozen meat door to door. Um, but then one day I had moved to Los Angeles, and a friend of mine was working in an ad agency as a storyboard artist. So I met him for lunch, and I walked in the agency, and it was like that moment, like I had found my temple. Like I said, wow, these are my people. I could do this, because I could never figure out what I wanted to do for a long time, except I loved writing, but I didn't know how to make money writing. So I got involved in the ad agency business and loved it, and was a copywriter, and then eventually very quickly worked my way up to a creative director level. But then I didn't like what happened when you turn 50 in an ad agency is they lay you off and you can't get a job. You have to go work for one of the clients for about a quarter of what you were making. And I was watching it happen. And I said, I'm not going to let that happen to me. And then just coincidentally, this other gentleman that I knew he was running a little startup, and I worked with him for a while. He had a moment of brilliance where he got the 800 number that spelled out dentist, and he had it ring to his house for 5 years, because he wasn't an ambitious person. Um, and but he saw me in advertising. He said, I think you could turn this into a business. Have people call it, find a dentist. He had like the sketchiest of notions about it. And so I said, well, I'm not going to work with you because you don't work. Um, and so, but another friend of mine was a stockbroker, and he was tired of losing money for people just so he could make money. And, and he said, let's do this. And we were young and naive enough to think we could pull it off. And we also, if we failed, we didn't have that far to fall. We had no wife, kids, house, any of that stuff, which is kind of important when you're starting off, because you don't have a spouse going, are you ever going to make any money? These children are hungry. And so we just put our heads down, and I wrote some radio spots, and we went around finding dentists in Los Angeles who wanted to play along with our crazy idea. And we found 20 of them, ran some radio ads, had a little call center in a 200 square foot office, and we got 50 phone calls the first day.
Oh, wow.
And there was this moment of like, holy crap, this might work. Because we were pitching it like we believed it would work, but we didn't
Yeah.
know. And so we just kept spending money on advertising and adding dentists month after month after month, all in LA. And then we started adding cities. We added San Diego, then San Francisco, then Sacramento. And then we flipped to television instead of radio advertising, and the whole business blew up. I mean, we tripled it in 1 year. We went from 100 clients to 300 clients. Suddenly, we were able to take good salaries after hanging by our fingernails for 2 years, not knowing if it was ever going to be profitable, and it just flipped into profitability, and away we went. And it went. I ran it for almost 30 years.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and we peaked out at about 50 million a year in revenue, and had 250 people working there, and it went way beyond what we imagined it would be. And so I ended up writing a couple of books on dental practice marketing and doing a lot of speaking on that, um, which sort of created my own brand in the industry. And I developed a passion for public speaking. Um, but it all goes back to I was an incredibly introverted young person growing up as a child and as a teenager and everything. I, you know, I lost a job once because the owner of the business said he saw a lot of promise in me, and he said, "I think you could be one of our salespeople." I mean, I was working, like on the shop floor, helping the machinist clean machines and stuff like that. It was amazing, dumb stuff I was doing. But he saw something in me, and so he gives me a desk and a phone and a list of people, and he says, start calling these people and see if they want to do business with us. That was the extent of my training. I couldn't dial the phone. I couldn't make a single cold call. So back to the machine shop floor for me. And then, which is ironic because I eventually made my fortune with a phone number, and going door to door, finding guys to participate. Um, but I couldn't ask a girl to dance or go out on a date and all that stuff. And I just kept missing opportunities and getting frustrated and angry at my hesitation. And I just started to work my way through it very gradually by emulating bold people, because I thought, oh, they're born this way. But why are they not worried about rejection? Why do they act like this, where they're not worried about whether people are judging them and stuff? It just mystified me. But the short story is I figured it out for myself and transformed myself. So that's the arc of how I got to SuperBold, which is the title of the book.
Yeah, amazing journey, Fred. I'm curious to ask you. So, when you mentioned when you started a business, the first 2 years was quite difficult and you had less revenue. So, what inspired you to keep going in that 2 year period before you break even?
It's called No Way Out. I mean, and that's one of the things that helps you to succeed as an entrepreneur is you've got to make it work. I mean, we had borrowed money from our family, and when you start a business, you sign personally on everything. You sign personally on the lease. You sign personally on any debt that you take on with the bank for the business, and with the media companies. We were personal guarantees on everything. So if the business failed, personally, we both had to go bankrupt. So and not pay back our family that had given us, $30,000. It wasn't a lot of money uh, to start a business, but that's all we ever took for the first 15 years for investment capital, was that 30 grand. Because we were clever about generating cash, and then just had a terrific banking relationship. But we just had to keep showing up and try to make it work. And if you got a way out, if you got, you know, I have a friend that said, whose his motto is no plan B. He's like, no, I'm doing this. This is going to work. It has to work. And I'm going to do everything I can to make it work. And that was the box we were in. But that was the lesson, is like, we just figured stuff out and we didn't have the money to throw at a problem. So we had to use our brains and our creativity and our energy to come up with solutions. And that's what we kept doing, and squeezing through some tight spots because of, and in large part because of relationships we built. I mean, I could talk about business relationships. When people say business, it's business, it's not personal. All business is personal. And I
What
can
do you
tell
mean?
you that it's the relationships that will cause your success and also can precipitate your failure, is not nurturing those relationships. I can tell you 4 people, individuals, that saved our business because of the relationship we had with them. One guy, we were in a real financial crisis because it was in the dot-com bust, and we owed millions of dollars in media advertising that we couldn't pay on time. And if they shut off our credit, we were done nationwide. If anybody shut us off, the word would spread against all these TV stations, and we would go from 90 days to pay to cash in advance, which would have been game over. And this one guy at the station in ABC in San Francisco, he called me and he said, "Fred, I got to know if you're going to pay me." And I said, "Bill, I will die before I don't pay you. I can guarantee you I will pay you, and I can guarantee you it won't be on time." And he said, "That's all I care about." And we paid him everything, but he saved our credit across the country, because we would be able to say, ABC is giving us credit. Either you give us credit or we'll go to another network. And that made all the difference. And we paid him every dime. We made him look good. He get to go in those meetings, those finance meetings every month, and go, Fred's paying us. And these other guys, because they lost millions during the dot-com bust. They had, pets.com and stuff like that just went totally under. And they owed tens of millions of dollars to TV stations that the stations just never collected. So it's like things like that are about the relationship that we had, that his trust in me was so significant. He was gonna vouch for me with his company. And he could have been wrong. He could have gotten hurt, but he knew I would find a way.
Love that. Love that, Fred. And I think so many lessons in there as well, like building a relationship and then also having the trust in another person, for sure. And what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in getting 1-800 off the ground?
Well, the really the biggest challenge was dentists weren't used to advertising, and the dental societies considered it unethical to do so, even though it was legal to do it. They just thought it was ruining the profession, and they would come up and tell us to our face, "You're destroying the profession." When and the American Dental Association started going around the country, state by state, trying to get dentist referral services illegalized. In other words, make it against the law to actually have a referral service, like our business model. And they succeeded in 2 states. But we were going state by state fighting it, because they would try to sneak in, get some legislator to pass a bill that nobody was paying attention to, and we would have to get on it. And so we finally we paid a lobbyist to go to the Federal Trade Commission, because he said, "Look, this is just restraint of trade, what they're doing." And so we went to the FTC, and they bitch slapped the ADA for doing it. And the ADA really didn't like that. um, but it just opened us up. so that we were free to do business. But they were really against us. That was an amazing headwind that we had to fight. Um, and then years later, 20 years later, dentists, the same dentist who would have come up to me and said, "You're destroying the profession," they would, several of them came up and said, "I was one of those people that thought you were harming the profession. I was wrong. Nobody did more for this profession than you guys. We spent $500 million in television advertising over the time I ran the business. We were the loudest voice promoting dentists. More people went to their own dentist because of us than went to our dentist because we were running television ads that reminded people, hey, you got to take care of your teeth. And if you don't have a dentist, we got one for you. But we would even say, if you have a dentist, go to her. Get in there. Don't be neglecting your teeth. But if you don't have one, we have a great one. And that people realized nobody else was promoting dentistry. The ADA never did it. They kept yelling at the ADA, why don't you do what 800 Dentists does? And they were, oh, well, they're unethical. What they meant is they didn't know how to do it. And they couldn't get their constituents to pay for it. So, that was probably the biggest challenge, and overcoming it. But but there's always legal stuff that comes up, and and especially in America, there's always, as soon as you are successful, it's like you've painted a bullseye on your back and say, feel free to sue me and try to get some money. Because there are lawyers who just they have a word processor that they just send out litigation letters hoping that you'll settle immediately. And if you learn to not be afraid of those, they go away 95% of the time. And we fought them. We fought some of them hard. But it's just the nature of the beast. And that's the thing about being an entrepreneur is if you knew how hard it was going to be,
Never
you
start.
wouldn't do it. You can't know. Like I said, we were naive enough to think we could pull it off and it wouldn't be too hard. Well, it's harder than you imagine, but it's also more gratifying to create a business, because we had to invent every aspect of the business and overcome all of these obstacles. And we built a great culture. We had 250 people who loved working there. And that was our success, because they would project something so positive over the phone that people would start to relax about going to the dentist. And we were creating the first impression of our dentist, which was important to start that we were building the first stage of trust with
Yeah.
our operators. So all of this stuff, we figured it out later why it worked. We just wanted a great place to go to work, and we hired great people who were nice on the phone. But that became the cornerstone of the business.
Nice. And what type of different marketing strategies is needed to promote a dentist practice compared to like a product or something?
That's the interesting thing is people come to me and they say, oh, my product is so hard to sell, like it's so hard to find the customer and stuff like that. And I said, try selling dental appointments.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking this.
I've got something uncomfortable. It's going to take you time and cost you money. Are you interested? But and so that challenge was to zero in on the messaging that didn't guilt trip people, but sort of said it's easier. I mean, we were a resource. We had information about the dentist, and what we decoded was people wanted to talk to somebody about the dentist before they talked to the dental practice, because they said, oh, they're going to try to sell me something or get me in there, and I don't know. I want to know about them first. And we were Google and Yelp before there was Google and Yelp. We had all of this information about the practice that they couldn't get anywhere else, and we had referred dozens and eventually 100 people to this practice who were happy. because people, we had an 800 number, they'd call us if they weren't happy. And we almost never had to kick a dentist off because people complained about them, because we found we had a screening process to bring them on, because we
Okay.
wanted to be comfortable sending people to them, because that just, we were out to protect the brand. Was way more important than any individual dentist. And there were guys we didn't let on, and they said, no, I'll pay you twice as much. And we said, it's not the money, it it's you. So, uh, yeah, it was very much that whole idea of, how are you serving, uh, and are you serving it with people who believe in what you're doing? And I think that, there's plenty of businesses that maybe don't do that, and they're fly by night and stuff like that. But we were in it for the long term, and we really cared about our people. Actually, we cared about our people more than our dentists. Because we had a rule that no dentist gets to yell at our people, because some of them would call up and they'd be yelling and screaming on the phone, and if they cursed out one of my people, they were off the program for good. And because and they would call back and apologize, and I would say, apology accepted, you're still off. Because and when you do that for your people, when your people know that you have their back, and that the customer isn't always right, they will go to the wall for you. And that's what we built. We built a team. They wouldn't let me call the doctor back, because I said, oh, let me talk to him. What did he say? I'm calling him back. And they, no, Fred, don't call him. We'll call him. We'll talk to him. We'll kick him off. You don't have to kick him off. Because they knew I was going to scorch the guy, because
Wow.
this was my people.
I love that,
So,
Fred. Yeah, tell me more about how do you build a culture that people love working and they can, do anything for the company? How do you do that? How do you build a culture like that?
you have to be as clear as possible on your values. We had core values way before people talked about them.
What were your
Uh,
core values, if you don't mind
they were
sharing?
they were really simple. They were and prioritized between Gary and me. We set up a business. Number one was, we wanted a great place to come to every day, where people treated each other respectfully, and we felt responsible for their livelihoods, that they made enough money and they were comfortable and they were growing in their careers. And I can elaborate on that. So that was number one, a great place to work. Number two is, everybody's got to win, because Gary had been a stockbroker. I had worked in sales organizations where the customer lost if I got the sale. I talked him into something that they couldn't afford, or he talked him into stocks they shouldn't be buying. And we went, from now on, the customer wins, which is the patient, the dentist wins, who is also our customer, the employees win, and we win. If it doesn't do all four of those things, we're not, that part of it won't come into it. And people would just say, in a meeting, we'd have a strategy meeting, they'd say, yeah, but does the customer really win if we do this? Does the patient really win if we do this? And the discussion would be over. It's like, yeah, I guess they don't, so forget it. And third was profit. We had to have a profitable entity, but it was always third. And what happens as businesses get bigger and bigger, and a bunch of owners get, greedier. They get in the contest for wealth, because they've actually exceeded what they need for money. But now they're measuring themselves by how big their asset base and bank balance is. And profit moves in front of serving everybody and everybody winning, and then profit moves in front of a great place to work, because it becomes about money. It never moved up for us. That was the rule. Is integrity was always gonna supersede any profit, and we undoubtedly made less profit because we took such good care of our people, but because of it, my last week at work, we celebrated 3 25-year employees. These people had given me, in the same month, these people had given me their entire adult lives. So that's when I knew. I said, we built a culture that was so strong that they defended it. We didn't even have to. It became so important to them, they wouldn't let anybody mess with it. And if somebody, a team member tried to do it somewhere along the line, we wouldn't even have to call them on the carpet. Somebody in the break room would go, "You need to stop this shit. You're gonna wreck this place with this stuff you're doing." And they would go like, all right, well, well, look, no, we're serious.
Wow.
We love it here. Don't poison the well. So it was great. We didn't have to do it.
Wow, amazing. That's so inspiring. And what would be like your one key lesson from your entire entrepreneurial journey that you want to share with aspiring entrepreneurs or current founders now, Fred?
Don't raise too much money. There's two things that'll take you down in a business: not enough money and too much. Because if you got too much investment capital, you throw money at every problem and you don't solve the problem. You almost like mask it with spending. And so be careful about how much money you raise, and and always be checking yourself. Look, are we just throwing money because we think we can't figure it out? What if we had to figure it out? And then after a while, build up a war chest. Have that reserve of cash and a reserve of credit line that you don't use, because stuff's going to go crazy. COVID's going to happen. It will happen again. The internet bust these things happen, and you need runway. You need to be able to circle the wagons and survive with the cash you've got on hand. And also, sometimes the right business comes along, and the opportunity to buy them is this tiny window. And if you don't have the cash to do it, or the leverage or the banking leverage to do it, you miss what could be that beautiful bolt on to the business. Because a lot of people go like, well, we don't want to pay taxes, so we're going to distribute all the money. It's like, yeah, that feels nice until there's a crisis. And then you go, could you guys put the money back in? Because we need it now. And we weren't good at it. I got to say, that was one of our weaknesses. Is we hated to pay too much in taxes, so we distributed more than we should have, and we missed some really important things, and we got in some tight spots because of it. So, the Bill Gates always talks about how from the beginning he always wanted enough money to operate for a year in reserve. And that's a lot of cash. But if you have that, you sleep at night. And things come at you and you go, all right, we got to start paying attention. We got to tighten things up, but we're going to be all right. And so I have a couple of enterprises I'm working with now, smaller startups. And I said, one of them in particular, I said, all right, we're always going to have 100,000 in the bank. If you drop below 100, we're having a board meeting. And
Yeah.
then it moved to 200. And you could just see the difference in the way they operated, because they pretended the money wasn't there, and they just kept earning and growing and growing. And then I said, like, now we need a bigger buffer because we got more people. If we gotta sustain this business for a year, we need 200 grand to keep the core people, because the hardest thing is to let great people go fantasizing that you're going to get them back in 6 months or a year. You're not. People want your great employees. A lot of times they know exactly who they are. They just can't convince them to leave because your culture is so great. So the last thing you want to do is release those people, because you're so tight on money you can't support them.
Oh, that's a really good advice for business entrepreneurs to definitely be careful of, for sure. And now let's deep dive into your book that I'm really excited for, which I listened to twice on Audible as well. So, firstly, I want to ask you what inspired you to write this book, and you also mentioned that you emulated a few bold people when you were starting your career. So, I want to know like who do you emulate, and like why like boldness really you found special in them? Why not something else? Why boldness was something you felt special? So, two questions there.
Yeah, so I speak on boldness now because the origin story of the book is many years ago I was brought in to mentor these high school students with a friend of mine who was running a 2-day weekend teaching life skills to high school kids, how to manage your time, your money, your relationships, and set goals for your life, which they don't teach you in school pretty easily. And so there were a dozen business people that were mentors in there, and we all did presentations to these young people. And one of the things I said in my presentation was boldness is a superpower, and the sooner you learn it, the more satisfying and successful your life will be. And they said, "Yeah, that's great. How?" I don't understand how to become bolder. And I had, at that point in my life, I had become incredibly bold. I could speak in front of an audience of 5,000 people. I had tried improv comedy and stand up comedy, started a business, um, and, met an amazing woman who became my wife because I was bold enough to talk to her and everybody else was afraid to. And so I said, how did I get here? And I just started reflecting on the changes I made and what I did. And it turned into the book which is called SuperBold, from underconfident to charismatic in 90 days, which is a very bold statement. But charisma is just you feel comfortable wherever you are and you bring your full self to the situation. And that attracts people. And I saw this. I saw people who could walk up to somebody and make them feel like the most important person in the room. I saw them do things where they looked ridiculous and everybody goes, wow, they look foolish. And I'm looking at them going, yeah, but they're having a really good time. And the other half of the people are admiring them for doing it. And they were unstoppable. They would never be. And I said, you know what I'm noticing? And this was this deep epiphany, was like, they never stop themselves. And the rest of us do. We go, oh,
Yes.
I could, uh, make a mistake and they'll laugh at me. It could be embarrassing. I could fail at it. I could look foolish. Uh, and, I'm not worthy of this. I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not interesting enough. I'm not attractive enough. Bold people don't say that to themselves. They go, they step up, they step in to see what's going to happen. They don't know how it's going to go. People would say, well, I would be bolder if I knew how it was going to turn out. It's like, that's not boldness. That's safety, right? So, and what bold people discovered, and as I started to emulate them, I discovered this, is that when you are bold, when you are not comfortable about how it's going to turn out, but you act anyway, all of a sudden the universe kind of steps up and goes, oh, you're ready to play. Here's some surprise gifts and tools. It's like you're playing a video game and all of a sudden you can get at more new weapons and stuff like that weren't available till you passed a certain level. It's almost the same thing. And it just keeps happening. And you now all of a sudden you're literally developing a new neural pathway where you're being rewarded for stepping out of your comfort zone, for taking risks, for putting yourself out there, for speaking up, for stepping up, for saying yes. And they wouldn't hesitate. And that's what everybody else is doing. They hesitate and they think about it, and the window of opportunity closes. And instead of a great experience, they get a regret. And I had stacked up dozens and dozens of them, some of them incredibly painful. And I would look hard at them and let them sting, let them grind at me and say, never again. I'm not doing that. I'm speaking up. I'm stepping up. I'm saying yes. I'm going to go in and embarrass myself until I don't. Because nobody's good at everything on the first try. But we all, like in social situations, well, I don't want to try that. I'm like, of course it's going to go wrong. It's your first time. That how do you're going to get good at it by doing it, you know? And then eventually you don't worry about it. Your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the important thing for me, the reason I teach this is that there will be times in your life, 2, 3, 4 times, maybe 5 or 6 times, if you're lucky, when saying yes will make all the difference in your life. And not saying yes, not stepping up, not acting will create a regret that will gnaw you all the way to your deathbed. And so I don't want people doing that. I didn't want to be doing that. Because because I see people hesitating and missing and feeling bad and I hear the story they tell themselves and I hear why they stop themselves, and I want to help them to never be the one to stop them. Let somebody else try. That's what bold people do. Go ahead and try and stop me. I might go in anyway. They'll walk in backwards to a nightclub so it looks like they're leaving when there's a line that they're not letting anybody in. It's like, why would that work? But if it works 10% of the time, they're happy with themselves because they weren't getting in anyway. But it's stuff like that where you stop letting the made up
Yeah.
rules that you've created restrain your life and prevent you from having from chasing your dream. Because people they don't fail to get to achieve their dreams because they're too hard. It's because they don't get to them. They don't get to them every day and take the risks and endure the pain. And the dream decays. When you don't get to your dreams, they decay. And then because you say, oh, well, I'll get to them when I have more time or more money or more skill or I feel better
Ready.
about it or I've done
Yeah.
more research on it. And then they don't. And then a decade goes by and they have less energy and less time and more responsibilities and they can't. It's harder to do.
Love that answer, Fred. Literally, it was like a bang on. You mentioned all the excuses when we want to do something big. We get all the excuses and the story we tell ourselves. And I think hesitation kills more dreams than anything. And
Yeah.
for sure. And like you mentioned, like bold people don't care about the outcomes. They don't think about, oh, what will happen. Just go after it if they want to do it. So my question to you is, how would we distinguish being bold from being arrogant or being reckless? That's it.
There's the interesting thing is being bold. It doesn't mean being a show off. Doesn't mean I need attention. It means I'm going to chase my dream and I'm going to take the risk. I mean, this is people go like, well, I don't want to take that risk because it might not work out. And I went, that's the definition of risk. It's like
Yeah.
it's a guarantee means there's no risk. So bold people know that there's only a percentage of the chance that this is going to go the way I want it to. But I'm not even going to worry about that because something else might happen. And that's what they said. Sometimes I went in, I was hoping that this would happen, and then that didn't happen, but something completely different happened, and it was way better. And so they start to trust it. They go like, I'm going into the unknown. I'm going to discover a ninth planet. Just put me on a spaceship. You know, I mean, and it's crazy how that happens. But arrogance is about narcissism. It's needing to prove yourself. Both people don't need to prove to themselves to you who they are. They're not necessarily worried about your judgment. They appreciate your admiration or appreciation, but they're doing it because it's important to them. That they bring their full self into everything, and they stress themselves and they challenge themselves. And because of it, truly bold people are actually quite humble because they've failed so much
Yeah.
that they just said like, oh man, there's so much to learn. And you go like, you're a billionaire. They said, yeah, but let me tell you the areas of my life where I'm still screwing up, and I gotta fix this. You know, like I'm not paying enough attention to my grandchildren, and I'm like letting other things. I was like, really? Okay, relax a little bit. You know, you get a private jet running in the backyard, but you know, uh, but that's truly bold people. It's all about that realizing their dream. And I've met billionaires, I've met incredibly successful people, and they are actually very humble because they knew what took to get there, and the sacrifices they made and the lessons they learned the hard way, and that they always see how much further they could go, how much more impact they could have. They real bold people who are not narcissists just looking for attention, which has nothing to do with boldness. That's actually gross insecurity. All of narcissism is they don't feel good about themselves. Bold people are willing to feel good about themselves,
Regardless of
despite
the outcomes, right?
no matter how many times they stumble. You know, they look at stumbling as as a way up. A failure is a step up for them because it's like, oh, there's got to be some information in this. Whereas other people go like, I never want to fail again, so I'm not even going to examine why I failed and what I could do better the next time. They just back off. So, like I said, there's true bold people are humble as they approach stuff, and they care much more about the impact that they have on those people that they serve and that they reach, and the businesses, let's say, that they create, that they say like, I need a business that solves this because nobody's doing it. And one of the reasons I'm passionate about teaching boldness is we have huge problems in this world. We need people
Yeah.
bold enough to think, oh, I can solve nuclear fusion. I can solve, the plastic in the ocean, instead of going, that problem's too big. Nobody can solve it. They say, with all humility, I think I can. And we need more of those people. I want to train more of those people because your generation and Gen Alpha and those people are that like we're handing them a big mess right now, and
Yeah.
it's going to take their energy and determination and boldness to solve these things and make the world a better and sustainable place. We need to improve the political environment. We need to improve the physical environment. We need to figure out how to live healthier. We live an incredibly unhealthy existence, most of us, because of capitalism selling us crap to eat primarily.
And yeah, 100%. And I think the world we live in now, I would love your perspective on this. So, how the post lockdown world with the rise of social media, dating apps, have affected the social skills and the ability to be bold nowadays in people?
I think it's a terrible impairment because there's so much safety in hiding behind social media. Um, let's look at dating sites. It's like on one level, there's a lot more options, but on another level, you're subjecting yourself to judgment on the most superficial level. Whereas if you met someone and had to go into social situations and interact with them and be vulnerable and find out how to communicate and how to build a relationship, you would be better off. I mean, how many people do you see that that they're sitting at dinner, they're out with their girlfriend or their boyfriend, and they're at dinner and they're both on their phones? It's like, and it's to me it's a terrible trap because that's not connection. I mean, it allows you to stay connected in some ways to a lot more people, but how connected are you really? Do you need 500 friends? Do you need 40 million followers? Only if you got a business based on it, but those people don't know you. You've actually presented an illusion of who you are to most of those people. And that's so much of what's happening. But I think that people don't know how to look people in the eye anymore. People don't know how to shake hands. And one of the most important things is one of the cornerstones of your success is the people you surround yourself with and are deeply interacting with. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And in some ways that's an interesting thing. I think that applies personally in one area and business in another area, but I think it's still true. But if you don't have friends that go, hey, you're pretty off course at this point. I'm listening to you talk to your girlfriend like this, and nobody should be talked to like that. What's going on with you? That's a real friend. Okay, not a false friend says, "Oh yeah, she's like that. She's a B." That's it's all on her. They're just like letting you off the hook for your wrong behavior. None of us are perfect, so have friends that elevate you and challenge you. Say like, I thought you said you were going to get this done this year. It's December. What are you doing? I was like, oh, well, it's like, oh, you have excuses. Good for you. That's what a friend says. I was really looking to celebrate with this whole thing with you, but now you're buying my dinner, because you didn't do it. Um, and so, and to meet whoever you want to meet, this is what great reason to become bold, because there are people that you will meet and you will have a few seconds to go up and introduce yourself. You want to be good at that. You want to be able to walk up to that successful person or that actor or whatever that you've always admired, a musician. And and the opportunity to go up and say how much you appreciate what they've done, or get in a deeper conversation with them instead of a stupid selfie. It's like, oh, I met so and so. I met Lord. She's a friend of mine. Look, I've got a selfie with her. Really, why has she got that face? Like, why are you next to me? You know, um, and so that ability to meet anyone you want is one of the most powerful life skills, because those are the people you never know when you might be able to bring value to them, or they might bring value to you, or or they may just inspire you with a few words. And I've mastered this so that I can meet anybody in any situation and have a normal conversation with them. And like I said, I've met billionaires. The list of actors that I have met and had real conversations with. because I knew how to talk to them. I didn't take my picture with them. I had a long conversation with Tom Hanks that I saw
Oh, wow.
in a takeout place. He was there with his wife, and I just went up and I just said, excuse me, Mr. Hanks, I just want to tell you, I'm watching this series. He had made the series From the Earth to the Moon on HBO, and I just said, I got to tell you, I can't wait for the next episode. I so appreciate all the work you put into this. It's really fantastic. He was so appreciative that I took a moment to tell him, and I had something to say. I mean, there's people who go up and go like, hey, you're that actor. What's your name? It's like, that's not how you introduce yourself to somebody you admire. I admire you. Who are you? You know? Um, so, to hone this ability to build your boldness muscle so that when it matters, your default action is go. And one of the points I make, and I make it over and over again when, because I use the example, the phrase carpe diem. What is the day?
Seize the
Right?
day.
Yes. And so people say that you need to carpe diem. And I say, you know what? That's actually Latin for lousy advice, because most opportunities, they're not all day. They're a moment. They're a few seconds. So I say, carpe momentum, seize the moments, because you don't have all day. You have to be ready in a moment. I have had more situations where it was a yes or no. Do you want to do this? Do you want to try this? Do you want to join this? Do you want to meet this person? Do you want to participate in this? And if you go, let me think about it, they move on, or the window just closes, or you see that person, that amazing person that you admire so much, and you go, well, what am I going to say to him? He's not going to find me interesting, and like, I'm going to be bothering him, and then somebody walks up to him and then has a great conversation. Now you don't want to interrupt because you hesitated, you didn't seize the moment. I want you to seize those moments when it matters. And the only way to do that, build your boldness muscle every day. Do bold stuff when it doesn't matter, when the stakes are low. Do bold stuff when there's no risk whatsoever, or the risk is so nominal that it bounces right off you, so that you get bolder and bolder. Boldness builds like a muscle. I talk about this in the book a lot, and it builds gradually, but I'm getting bolder and bolder still. There are bolder people than me, and I look at them and I go, wow, they just moved my bar up again, you know. Um, but from wherever you are, from painfully shy like I was, to people who are already pretty bold, who want a systematic way to be bolder, that's what my book teaches you, because
Yes.
it's important, because life is short. Life is,
Right.
it's too short to blame other people for your unhappiness. It's too short to think you're going to get to stuff. It's too short to waste all your time judging and criticizing people. Criticize yourself, judge yourself, improve yourself, and understand that the clock is running. You're in the game of life, but you don't know how long the coach is going to let you play. So play full out. Leave it all on the mat. Leave it all on the court. Leave it all on the pitch, whatever sport you got, you know. So
I love that. And I think in the book you mentioned like building a bold muscle, you have a framework called Pride. So do you want to walk us through that framework and tell us how can we practically implement it?
yeah, so the Pride method Pride is an acronym for 5 steps to taking bold action. And it's a series of bold actions that will build your boldness muscle. Now, the premise behind it is important, is most people will say, well, I would be bolder if I were more confident. And I say, yeah, that's the fallacy, is you think you have to be confident to be bold. The reality is bold action is what builds your confidence. Bold people build their confidence by doing stuff that they're not confident how it's going to go or how they even feel. Oh,
Right.
I'm going to sing karaoke. I think I might suck. uh, and they do, but they go, wow, I sucked, and everybody cheered at the end because I so committed to sucking. Um, and like maybe I'm gonna get to find a song in the right key that I can sing, but it's about understanding that bold action when you
Mm-hmm.
don't know how it's going to go and you're worried about how it's actually going to come. That's what builds your confidence, and it builds and builds and builds. So the pride method has 5 steps that you use to build your boldness muscle with bold action. The first step is preparation. Prepare yourself. You see Richard Branson, what are you going to say to him? Prepare it in your head. Don't just run up to him and say, "Hi, I'm Fred." Just go up and say, and think ahead of step. I'm going to, what is he, what do I appreciate about what he's done? Oh, I stayed at that Virgin Hotel in Manhattan. It was amazing. Or, or I'm so impressed that, I want to sign up to get on Virgin Galactic. Oh, that's what I'm going to say. Hi, Mr. Branson. Just got to tell you, I want to be one of your astronauts. I'm saving the money so I can get on one of those Virgin Galactic flights someday. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to go, well, you better hurry up because the price is going to keep going up. But I'd love to have you on board. What's your name? That's what Richard's going to say. That's what he's actually going to say. So, but you've prepared yourself. If you're going to compliment somebody on the simplest level, just look at them and say, what would I say that would be a different thing to say than just the first thing that comes, like a beautiful woman? Oh, you're so beautiful. It's like, okay, how about, wow, those shoes that you found are amazing. They really go with that outfit. Prepare that. And then the next step, that's the P. The R is relaxing. You have the ability to relax yourself. And it's not by, why don't you just relax? That doesn't do it. When somebody says that, they goes, what? I don't look relaxed? That makes you more nervous, more anxious. No, you breathe. Before I go on stage, if I got a huge audience, I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. And your breath will relax you. Then I'm going to change my physiology, because when we're anxious or nervous, we tense up. Our body language changes. It's like, and you go like, why am I like this? And we stop breathing. Which is, oxygen is so important. You really should get some on a regular basis. But you can do that. Get yourself in a relaxed state. And when you start to relax yourself, you go, oh, I'm in control of my state, which is different than being out of control of your state because you're letting the anxiety build. And then I get into much more detail, obviously, in the book on this. But then the next step is have some key insights. And I've got the 2 core ones are, we're so worried about what other people think. Nobody is thinking about you anywhere near as much as you think they are. They're thinking about themselves. They go right back to themselves. And I judge people all the time randomly. That guy should never wear those glasses. She should never wear that dress. He needs to lose weight. He's going to have a heart attack. He's too tall. She's too short. Whatever. Like, my brain does all this stupid stuff. I'm wrong about who they are. It's like, if I turn that into a judgment about their personality based on what they're wearing or how they cut their hair, I'm wrong about 98% of the time. So I know I'm wrong. And I let it go, and I laugh at myself for having it. But then I realized people are doing the same thing about me. They have a split second judgment about me, knowing nothing about me, by a snapshot. And imagine if the only photo of yourself that was on the internet was you sneezing. Like, it's like, wow, that person's pretty ugly. It's like, well, yes, in that snapshot. So bold people care what about 5 people think in their life: their spouse, their best friends, their employer if they have one, their coach, and that's pretty much it. Everybody else is secondary. Their opinions, they're entitled to them, but that's got nothing to do with me. And that when you let that go, your life becomes radically different. When you stop worrying about what other people are thinking and chase your dreams. And the other thing, the other key insight is what bold people know is that 99% of the time, nothing bad happens. It's all in your head because you can have something happen and you say, oh, that would be embarrassing. It was like, here's a secret. Being embarrassed is a choice. There is always an alternative to being embarrassed. You can laugh along with people. My favorite story about this, and I love telling it because it's a classic example, is a friend of mine, a great public speaker. She's on stage. She's been on there about 10 minutes. She gets her heel stuck in one of the seams of the stage and snaps the heel off her high heel. Now, the women in the audience go, because they would never want that to happen to them anywhere, never mind on stage. And she looks down at her shoes, kicks them off, and says, well, I guess I got to start spending more than $30 on shoes. And the whole place falls apart laughing because they're so relieved that she's not embarrassed. And so she chose the other way to look at it. So it could be bad if you want to label it bad, or it could just be information. A failure is only bad if you just don't extract any information from it and never try anything ever again. That's a failure.
Yeah.
But when you realize that if you, and the corollary to nothing bad happening is that 99% of the time, nobody will stop you either. That may just be a sign that says, do not enter. If you enter, there's nobody inside going, go back out. There's just a sign. And there's no reason not to enter except the sign. And you go in, you're not going in to steal stuff. And maybe there's nothing in there. That would be great to put up a sign, do not enter. Enter at your own risk. And some people that go in and like, what's in here? Nothing. I was like, okay, we just wanted to see what you would do if you saw the sign. But when you aren't stopping yourself because you're worried about how bad it could get. I mean, and that doesn't mean do dangerous things or, invest without checking, the price earnings ratio of the stock. That's stupid. Okay. I'm not talking about senseless risk. I'm talking about chasing your dreams. That kind of boldness. That's what's the matter. And, I'd love to bungee jump. That's not a very risky thing to do, but there are people who've severely injured themselves doing it. And base jumping, that's not boldness. You're an adrenaline junkie at that point. And the odds of you being dead by 30 are really high. So I'm not talking about do death-defying stuff. That's not boldness, because you want to be around to have a full life and live. I plan to live at the infinity setting at this point. I'm counting on medical advances to preserve this and improve this frame quite a bit. I'll probably have a clone that I harvest organs from time to time. He's not going to appreciate it, but he's there to serve me. He's there to grow kidneys and stuff. But so key insights. D is dosage in the pride method. So preparation, relaxing, insights, dosage. Control the intensity of your bold action. And it's all very personal. If you're not used to meeting people, don't go to a party with 300 people and say, I'm going to meet 30 people before I leave. Just go smile at 10 people a day as you walk down the street. Or just say hi to everybody you meet. Or just talk to people, go ride in elevators and talk to people in elevators. Just do those things. Control the intensity of it so that you don't retreat into your shell. And there's some people that go like, I want to do what's crazy. What can I do? And I went like, put on some headphones and go stand in front of Starbucks and sing and dance. Like, and listen to how you're worried about people judging you and realize it makes no difference. I did I did a boldness workshop, 2-day workshop. At the end of day one, anybody who volunteered to participate got to do this. We put on an adult diaper. We stripped down, put on adult diapers, and walked the city block in a diaper.
My God. No way.
And only half the class did it. And one woman did it. And she said, "Can I keep my tights on?" And I said to the guys, "It's like, she keep her tights on?" And they went, "All right, we'll let her do it." But every one of them came back and said it was like a non-event. It was like, because you were deliberately looking foolish. Like there was like one woman yelled at them. I was with them. Of course, I did it too. And one woman yells at them, "You look ridiculous." It was like, really? No kidding. I wonder why she thinks that. Of course we look ridiculous. We're in diapers. But it was like a cleansing, like a release of judgment, because you were being deliberate. Like, I am deliberately looking as ridiculous as possible, more than I ever would have imagined. And it's just not a big deal. And everybody who didn't go went, "Dang it, we should have gone. We should have done it." Because everybody who came back went, "Yeah, it was nothing. It was fun." you know? And so, but, and you got to control the dosage. The people in that class who weren't ready, that was too big a dose. That would
Yeah.
have freaked them out. And so you work your way up from wherever you are. You inch your way out of your comfort zone. You don't do quantum leaps out of it, because you're going to retreat back into your shell. You're going to traumatize yourself, and that's not the point. The point is to build a muscle. It's building like a muscle. It's the same principle. If you're trying to get in shape, you don't start by trying to bench 300 pounds, because it's just going to crush you and you're going to be dead. But you don't go work with just a bar, because nothing's going to happen. So you have to strain yourself, but you can't overload yourself. Control the intensity of the experience. And then E is everyday action. Do something every day to build your boldness muscle. Because when you do that, something happens in your brain, and your brain says, "Oh, this is who we're becoming." Because the brain's lazy. The brain is trying to save energy all the time. So it's always trying to stop you. Don't do that. Don't try that. Don't think. Just let your hands do it. The brain delegates to the lower body very efficiently. But when you dabble in something, you get to it when you feel like it. Your brain says, "Oh, we don't really do this. We dabble in this. We play guitar when we feel like it." But if you want to learn a language or learn an instrument, get to it every day, even for 5 or 10 minutes. All of a sudden, it aggregates. What you get to every day aggregates, and what you don't disintegrates. So if it's important to you, get to it every day and watch it. You don't have to go far. It's much more important how often you get to it.
Love that. It's so clearly explained. And I think I'm going to do some bold challenges and I will be posting it online for you to see, Fred, for sure.
Please,
And
please do it.
I will be doing. And how can you, like, if someone will be doing these bold challenges? So, for example, they are at the grocery store and they need to go at the back door or space where they store all the food. So, when they'll be doing that, how can you push through the initial hesitation when they'll be doing this challenge? For example, oh, they might be thinking, or people might, they might just kick me out, or they might reject me, or whatever. So how can we really push through that
Okay,
initial
so
hesitation?
in the premise of the boldness exercises specifically, because all the boldness exercises basically have no real consequences. You're not going to get arrested. You're not going to get beaten up. You're not going to fall off a cliff. You're just going to feel uncomfortable. So what you change your intention to I am deliberately trying to fail. I'm going to go in here in hopes that somebody kicks me out. So like I said, you see a sign that says employees only, go in saying, I'm going in hopes that somebody kicks me out, which is, so if it doesn't happen, you go like, why the heck is nobody kicking me out? Because most of the time, there's just a sign. If they kick you out, you succeeded at what you were trying to
Right.
do because
So
you're
what?
just building your muscle. I mean, we don't do bench presses because we're going to need to get 200 pounds off our chest at some point in the near future. We do it to get stronger. We don't do pull-ups because we plan on climbing a lot of trees later in the year. We do it to get stronger. We do the exercise. It's the same thing. And what do you do when you exercise? You exercise to the point of failure. The most important rep in any exercise is the one you can't do. That's when you got maximum result. When you go like, eh, eh, that's the one that matters because you went to failure. So you're doing the same thing with a boldness exercise. I'm going to smile at everybody I meet until somebody doesn't smile back or till 5 people don't smile back. And just go like, I was trying to get them to not smile. What do I have to do? Do I have to smile like a crazy person? What's it going to take to get them to not smile back? When you aim for failure, nothing bad can happen. What happens is nothing happens. Like people keep smiling. Nobody throws you out. No, you know, what was it? Somebody was telling me he asked somebody, and it might have been you, Sid, that asked the person in front of you to pay for your groceries at
Yeah,
the
that was me.
supermarket. Yes. Like of course they're going to say no. You're aiming for failure.
Yeah. I,
And then they look at you like you're crazy. And it's yeah, I just felt like asking, you know?
yeah.
Uh,
And Fred, when once I did that, he said no. I was like, okay, fine. I moved on with my life. I didn't feel like after that. I felt just more confident. Like it doesn't matter if I get rejected. It's not the point. Like I did it, and I felt more alive.
yeah, that's the whole thing. It changes how the whole thing feels because the outcome was the bar was set so low that you couldn't step over it. You couldn't
Yeah,
not step over it. But it's empowering because you're reversing this and scientifically what you're doing is building new neural pathways because of neuroplasticity. They're realizing your brain can change at every point in your life and these new neural pathways that lead you to boldness being your default response in situations where you go, yeah, I'll try that. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that. Sure, let's go in there. Hey, maybe I'll try that. And you end up saying yes, and you're on a voyage of discovery. But the other thing that's happening is that hesitation pathway, that thinking about all the things that could go wrong, that atrophies. It physically atrophies in your brain. And that's a beautiful
yeah,
thing to let go of.
100%. And let's say someone who struggles with rejections or maybe take it personally. So, what's the advice for someone? How can they handle rejections without taking it personally or not letting it affect their confidence?
It's there's the people who really understand how to reject rejection are people like in who are in athletics of some kind. Because athletes, the great analogy is always baseball players. The greatest home run hitters in their career struck out 3 times more than they hit home runs. So they would say the most famous, probably baseball player ever, Babe Ruth, he would say every time I strike out, I go, I'm even closer to my next home run. That's And so it just, the strikeout meant nothing to him. And it's the same thing with rejections. You say, wow, thank you for that rejection. And this is just, we are so easy to reprogram. If you just do that stuff, when somebody hangs up on you, curses you out, let's say you're cold calling for a living, one of the hardest things to do, because most people go, I would never do that. Because of the rejection. And I tell people, do this. Go get a job raising money where you go stand in front of a supermarket and try to get people to donate to your cause or sign a petition and stuff like that. It's an overwhelming amount of rejection. You have to let it bounce off. You have to expect them to say no. So it's just like expecting to get kicked out when you go in the employees only room. You're saying, I am going to get rejected 99 times. So the only way I'm going to get to 100 is to do the 99. So I need you to reject me. So, hey, would you sign this petition? I would love it if you'd help us out. No, thank you. Click one more, check one more. How about you? Like, you seem like a nice person. Would you sign my petition? No, I absolutely would not. You should go to hell and die. Oh, okay. Thank you. 97. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. And just let it bounce off. Rejection, because it's not about you. It's about whatever's, you have no idea what kind of headspace they're in, where they are in the course of their day, what minute there is, what their experiences have been, and that you are very likely interrupting their day. So, like if you see somebody famous that you want to meet and you go up to him and say, hey, Will Smith, can we take a picture together? And he says, get away from me. That's what you expected him to say, because he's famous and people are always slobbering all over him, to the point where he can't go out to a restaurant, he can't go to the movies. They say being famous is great for about 15 minutes. And then the rest of the time, your life is ruined because you can't go anywhere, because people won't leave you alone. So, of course, he's likely to reject you. But the more you do it, the smoother you get at it. The more you say, excuse me, it's fine if you don't even want to talk to me, but I just want to tell you, I really appreciate, this movie that you made, or this YouTube video where you talked about this. And I just wanted to thank you for it. And you know what? If you give them the space to respond, and then break away, don't keep pushing it. Say, hey, you want to have dinner? It's like, you could say it to be deliberately rejected. To say, like, I'm so crazy, I'm going to ask him if he wants to go to dinner. Hey, you want to hang? It's like, no, I don't want to hang. I didn't think you would, but I'm crazy enough to ask. But if you expect him to go, okay, you went too far, buddy, then you succeeded, because you went, I'm going to chat him up until he sends me away. Right. Now, that's not necessarily a normal goal that you would have if it's somebody you really admire and you really want to meet. And I mean, I've met people that I admire that we went deep, and I wasn't expecting that to happen at all. I wanted to express my appreciation, but they were in a moment, and my energy was like, I don't need anything from you. And that's the important thing, is when you project, I need something from you, that repels people. They can smell it on you. We perceive that when somebody has an agenda, has a need coming at us. And when when you don't project that, you go like, I'm okay if you just tell me to buzz off, but I admire you so much, I had to just come over and express my appreciation. You can even say those exact words. You can say, look, you can just tell me to buzz off because you're busy, or you don't want to attract a crowd. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your work. And they go like, well, thank you. And they'll shake your hand, and you leave, go. You hit it, unless you're feeling crazy. Then say, so you want to go to dinner with me and my buds? And he goes, no, I don't. And he might go like, where are we going? Because I don't know where to eat, and I've been trying to figure out where to eat, and all of a sudden, you and Will Smith and your three friends are all going to dinner. But I mean, it's like that's the whole. It's just a process of like when you stop thinking rejection is about you, because this is a key insight. It's not about you, and if it is, what did you do wrong? What do you want to improve about yourself? The rejection has information.
Yeah.
If you walked up and wanted to meet this potential mate of yours and they rejected you, you get to go replay the tape and say, did I do something wrong? How could I improve it? They gave me a gift. They rejected me so that I get to reflect on it. So next time I meet somebody that I really want to meet, I don't bungle it. What did I do? I ran up to him too fast. I stuttered. I was like, I forgot their name or whatever. I did something. I like had my hand out to shake their hand, or like I had my phone out to take a picture with them. And you're like, oh yeah, they didn't want to do that. Maybe I just go up to them and say, hi, I'd really like to meet you because I admire
Mm,
what you do so much.
definitely.
And you go, oh, and that kind of worked. I may do that next time, but rejection is information. So reject the meaning that you want to give it, that it's about you, and mine it for the details and information. And it may be that the rejection means nothing except that you're closer to success.
Right. And when we get rejected, right, we might look like a fool or embarrass ourselves. So how can we really embrace that and just do it regardless, and not and embrace the foolishness? Let's say.
We all have this desire to be perfect and look perfect. None of us is. And so when that's an illusion that we're punishing ourselves with, it's like, oh, I never want to make a mistake. I never want to look foolish. I never want to be embarrassed. It's like, guess what? You will be anyway. Because none of us, you're gonna say the stupidest thing you've ever said. It's probably still coming. So stop trying, imagining that you need to be perfect in order to be part of the world. Nobody is. So give yourself a break and stop demanding perfection from yourself before you present yourself to the world.
The next question, Fred, I think I want to ask you. You did mention about some stories on unexpected moments that happened. So could you share maybe any stories recent or anything you want to share where boldness led to unexpectedly great outcomes?
Yeah, well, this is my favorite story
All right.
um, because the outcome was so great, and so I was with a group of business people, and we had rented out Necker Island, which is one of the islands that Sir Richard Branson owns in the Virgin Islands. And he rents it out to business people. Sometimes he's there and sometimes he's not. He doesn't live there. He has another island that he lives on. But sometimes if his wife is out of town, he'll bounce in and out of Necker Island and chat up some of the business people there. So I was there and I'm playing tennis and I ruptured my Achilles tendon playing tennis. And I call a surgeon like it's jelly. My Achilles is as soft as butter. And so I get a surgeon on the phone in Los Angeles, and he says, "Well, it's not going to heal itself. Don't worry." And he says, "But nothing bad is going to." He says, "Fix it. Don't ruin your vacation. Hang out there, because this was the first day, and I was going to be there for 5 days." He says, "When you fly back, we'll fix it." So I'm sitting there by the tennis court with my leg up, watching other people play tennis, and Sir Richard comes over to me because he's heard that I've ruptured my Achilles. Somebody said, "Oh, this poor guy, playing tennis." So Richard comes right up to me and he says, "Oh, this is such a bother that this has happened to you. Do you play chess by chance?" Now, the correct answer is I haven't played chess in 40 years, but Carpe Momentum. I am Fred.
Seize the
I am bold.
moment.
Seize the moment. I say yes. Now, all of the things I could have said, oh, I mean, he's going to beat me in 5 moves and he's going to ask me why the hell I said I could play chess. And did you think I said checkers? You know, he's going to, like, I could play all of those tapes, but I didn't play them and I wouldn't have listened if they started to play. I said yes right away. And that's it. I had a split second to say yes or no. This is my point, okay, of this whole thing is that was a moment. And so he says to somebody, get us a chessboard and bring it over. And so we sit and we play. And I'm playing such a disorienting game to him because I'm remembering how to play that half my defenses are down. So he's coming at me with everything and leaves himself exposed. And I just see it and I say, and I make one move and I say, oh, that's check. I said, actually, it's checkmate. And he looks down at the board and he looks at me and he calls me the C word. Oh, you. And it's like, and so that's my bragging rights, okay? And immediately sets the board up to play again. Now we're playing and we're talking and we're just having a normal conversation, you know, and he likes to talk about politics, but I'm not interviewing him. I'm not asking him for business advice. I'm not asking for an investment. I'm talking to him like a regular person, even though he's a multi-billionaire, and I'm not. And for then all these other people are there trying to get his attention, and he would come to the dinners and he would say, Fred, sit across from me. It was to keep people off him because he knew I would have a normal conversation with him. And so he would have me sit across to the point where people going like, you're monopolizing Richard. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to sit across from him when he asked me to, you know, so that you can. What are you talking about? And he kept finding me to play chess and berating me. I never beat him again. He would berate me about how slow I was at making every move. It's because I'm remembering how to play. But that was like such a turning point for me because I had been bold before, but the reward was so extreme for that quick yes instead of, oh no, I don't really play chess. Yeah, I haven't played in a long time, you know. So
Love that.
yeah. So that's,
Definitely.
I mean, and that's what can happen when you say yes and you have no idea how it's going to go.
Wow. Like, what if you have said no? Oh my God. Like, you would have regretted that
Forever, I would have regretted that
forever.
because you would have went, oh, okay, well then, we'll feel better. Gone. And I was just like, you know, and that's the thing. I've had enough of those where I didn't step up. I didn't speak up. I hesitated and the window closed. The momentum was not carped. I did not seize it. I let it disappear. And most of the time, that's all. You got a few seconds. Maybe you got a minute or two.
Definitely. That's such an interesting story of Richard Branson. Definitely.
Well,
And
and he's such a okay, here's the other point.
yeah,
He is the person I admire most in the world. If somebody said, who do you
really?
admire above everyone? And I would say Richard. You know, he's incredibly successful. He's a groomer of incredible employees. And he has charity events going on all over the world all the time. He
Yeah.
feels it's his personal responsibility to give back. And he just tries stuff. And he will say, I'm not like that extrovert guy, but he does all these crazy bold moves to promote his business. He's willing to be uncomfortable to succeed. So he's like the epitome to me of that person who's overcoming their hesitation to be bold and achieve astounding things. But he's a wonderful guy.
And Fred, like his story as well. He was dyslexic in school, and he struggled a lot. And he was bold, and he did bold actions, and he's a billionaire.
And
That's
now he's boldly saying dyslexia is an advantage.
Oh yeah, link on
He's
LinkedIn. This
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's telling people, it's like, stop looking at this as a disability. It, you just process information differently, and you can capitalize on that. Because I mean, the list of dyslexics who are incredibly successful is reaches absurdity at a certain point. At this, because it really is true. So in order to be able to go out into the world and say, forget what you've been told, it's not true. And in the face of psychiatrists or psychologists or any behavioral scientists, and he just says, it's not a disability. I'm sorry. You're wrong. So that's a bold statement, but it's he cares more about the impact he's having on those people that feel impaired by dyslexia, or their dyslexia is holding them back because of the way they're being treated in school. He doesn't want them treated that way in school. It's like they just learn differently.
and he's also worked with like LinkedIn to add dyslexic thinking as a skill on your LinkedIn profile, so you can actually add that as a skill,
Yep,
and that's quite huge as well. And that was massively went viral, and that helps. Some of the companies are just looking for people specifically for that skill, so they can
yep.
filter out and they can help them get jobs as well. So definitely a bold move. And I'm really enjoying talking to you. I feel like you're my Richard Branson here. I'm playing chess with you. So I have a last question for you. And in your book, you have written like I think 10 guiding principles that are really important. So I've selected two of them that I would love to deep dive. So the two I really want to get your perspective is: be the voice of upliftment, and people will feel uncomfortable. So if you don't mind, could you share more details about that?
Yeah. So uh, it, uh, part of what I tell people to do is don't be stingy with your appreciation or your compliments. A lot of people hesitate to express appreciation or just offer a compliment to a stranger. One of the boldness exercises, to me, one of the biggest ones, is to do what I call drive-by compliments, where you compliment a stranger, no expectation, no agenda, and all you're going to do is make them feel good about themselves, expecting nothing in the return. And just do that. Do that 3 or 4 times a day. Do that when you're in line at the coffee shop. Do that when you're at the grocery store, in the elevator, wherever, uh, whatever it is, just offer up this compliment that says, you're an incredibly stylish dresser. I wish I could figure out how to dress like you. It's so interesting to look at you. Just wanted to let you know that. Well, the number of times I've done that, which at this point it's probably thousands, there is always this reaction where you've changed their day by what you just said, by what you just offered, and you win because you're uplifting of them. You feel better about yourself. So it's this crazy win-win that can be created in a matter of seconds. So why not be that instead of, and here's what I do. Here's how I re-engineer myself. If I have a judgment about them, it's like, that tattoo looks ridiculous. I'm going to say, I really admire your tattoo. Because they got the tattoo for a reason. It wasn't a
Yeah.
mistake. I mean, they might have been drunk when they did it, but they did it for a reason. And you know what? They say, oh, thank you so much. I got this when my brother passed away. and it's how I remember it. Now, what's happened? I've totally changed my judgment about them because that tattoo is important to them. And it should be important to me that they have it instead of me going, that tattoo looks stupid. I mean, it could be like a cartoon character. It's like, why the heck would you have that? Oh, well, because of my brother. You know, this was his, we used to love to watch these cartoons together, and it makes me think of him. So there's that thing where I challenge myself. It's like those glasses, they should never wear that color glasses. First of all, I'm colorblind, so I should never be judging the color of anything on anybody. But I say those glasses look amazing on you. It changes my judgment about them. And yeah, the thing is, when I do this with an audience, right, I tell them how to do this. And then I'll say to somebody in the front row, it's like, that beard looks great on you. And they go, hey, wait a minute. What do you mean? What do you mean? You think this beard looks stupid, don't you? So people can't know that's why you're doing it. So,
I love your shirt, Fred.
I bet you do. Yeah. I'm throwing this away now.
No, I'm joking. And whatever the other guiding principle that you have is people will feel uncomfortable, because I think that's a huge one.
Yeah, because the people say, well, I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. And I said, you don't want to injure or insult or be rude or inconsiderate or inappropriate with anyone. But people feel uncomfortable when they see somebody being bold, and they may even be critical of it. But most of the time, that critique is actually about envy, that they wish they were bold and could seize opportunities like you. But they've warped it so much in their head that they can turn it into, oh, he just needs attention. What a show off. You know, I never want to be that. But what's going on is a painful admiration that they don't know how to get there. So they got to bring you down. And when you are bold and you do stuff, there will be people who are uncomfortable. That's their problem, not yours. Like I said, don't be rude. Don't be offensive. Don't be inappropriate. But don't let, they might be uncomfortable, stop you, because they will be. And it's not your thing. You don't know why. But if you buy into it, now you're worrying about strangers' judgments, which will stop you from doing almost everything.
Honestly, Fred, I've really enjoyed talking to you this evening, and so many key takeaways, and definitely our listeners will be fired up to do some bold challenges. So I'll leave some bold challenges in the description for them to do, and also link all of your social media handles in the show notes, and your book, which is available in Audible and Amazon, anywhere you can order, guys. I'll link it.
Yeah. And go to my website, because when you go to fredjoyle.com, there'll be a pop-up, and you can get a free explanation of how, I call it the laser technique, but it's how to make anyone feel like the most important person in the room. And it's a simple 5-step process. So if you go to the website and sign up for that, I'll email you that explanation. And it's a great thing to just start doing. And it's a great starter kit for building your boldness muscle.
100% agree. And I'd asked someone, like, what is the most best interpersonal skill that I've ever seen in other people? And she said, making others feel important. So I highly recommend everyone to see that laser framework. And that's mentioned in the book in more details as well. And also link your website as well for people to listen. So,
terrific.
Yes. And for our listeners, please comment below. What's your biggest bold takeaway that you could comment below for me to see and Fred to see? And thank you, Fred, once again. Thank you for our listeners.
Thanks, Sid. This was great fun.